There are really just two things you need to get out of this video. Have discipline with your money and have the correct mindset about your money. If you do those two things, you will do amazing. Within discipline and mindset, I'll go over 7 things that are keeping people poor, and then I'll share my tips for how we can overcome those obstacles. First, we have credit cards, and more specifically, mismanaging credit cards. Credit card debt is up to $850 billion in the US with an average interest rate around 18%. The average credit card debt holder owes over $5,000. That can quickly get out of hand because in 5 years, that could grow to $11,000. If you are an out of control spender, credit cards can single-handedly destroy your finances because these interest rates are so high and your debt just stacks on top of each other and grows when you don't pay it down. So if you're paying interest on your credit card debt, you need to get rid of it. Destroy it, burn it, shoot it, cut it up. Find Dave Ramsey and read his books because honestly, you haven't learned how to use a credit card yet, so you need to build that discipline before you get one because that credit card can destroy your financial situation. I have 4 credit cards and I've never paid interest on any of them. I use credit cards because in certain situations, they can actually be safer than debit cards. I get cash back whenever I spend money and I'm building my credit score. And I don't love FICO and the FICO credit score, but it's a system that's in place. So I'm gonna go by those rules until something replaces it because I want the best deal on my first house I buy. Because what happens if people don't start building their credit early enough, they go to apply for a mortgage, and because they maybe just had a credit card for a couple of months, their credit score isn't good or it's non-existent. If it's non-existent, they have to go through a manual underwriting process, which takes a lot more time and is a lot more work on your part, and you'll probably have a higher interest rate. So I recommend using a credit card the right way, treating it like a debit card, building that credit at a young age, so when you apply for your first house, you have like a perfect credit score and you'll get the best rate on your mortgage. The second thing that's keeping people poor is student loans. We need to be more mindful of the amount of money we are paying colleges because Americans over 1.75 trillion in student loan debt, and that's at an interest rate of anywhere from like 3.5% to 6%. Whenever we go shopping or we're making a big purchase, there are always things that are just out of our price range. And the same thing applies to colleges. But see, people have this mindset where like they need to go to their dream school no matter what it costs, and they need to go to school no matter what it costs. There are price tags that are simply too big, so you need to have a budget when you're picking a college. Also, you need to be aware of what income you expect to make once you get your degree. Like, it doesn't make a ton of sense if you're gonna spend $200,000 on an education when you plan on making like $50,000 or $60,000. Like, that just puts yourself in a mess. Like, think about what you have to do to pay that off if you're only making $50,000 a year. I really think you put yourself so far ahead if you can graduate with no debt. Think about working through school, applying for online scholarships, community college, negotiating your tuition. There's a bunch of options that you need to be using to reduce your tuition bill. So really be mindful of these things. The school you're picking, how much money you're gonna make afterwards, how soon you can pay off that debt. You need to have a plan because student loans can really mess up your finances for years in the future. The third thing that keeps you poor is car loans. I believe that 99% of people should not be financing their car. Cars are already depreciating assets, so loans just make you pay more and more for them, and you could be paying anywhere from a 4% interest rate to an 8% interest rate. And never buy a new car. As soon as you drive it off the lot, that car is depreciated. And within the first year, your new car might be worth 20 to 30% less than when you bought it. Get a dependable car that's a few years old and pay cash. Buy a Toyota or a Honda or something that you can drive forever. I don't think you should ever be paying interest on a depreciating asset. So when you take a mortgage on a house, the house's value is going up over time. A car's value is just going down unless you're buying like a supercar or like a collector car. Your car is definitely going to be depreciating, so just don't take a loan on it. If people have credit card debt, student loans, and car loans, they are probably doing the fourth thing that is keeping them broke, which is living paycheck to paycheck. But this makes sense if you're paying interest on your car, your student loans, your credit card, and then you throw on shelter, food, utilities, and your other bills. You have no money, and all your money is just going right out the door immediately. You're stuck in a cycle of money coming in and then money going out. This is how you guarantee yourself to remain broke your whole life. To get out of this cycle, you start by not taking on debt, and if you have debt, you pay it off as quickly as possible, and you throw all of your money towards that. You read Dave Ramsey's books, and you get out of debt. That is the first thing. Once you do that, you start living below your means. You reduce your expenses. So now you have monthly inflows. After paying all your necessities, you have money left over to pay yourself. And we'll talk about that a little bit later. But this also means tracking your expenses and budgeting, so you know exactly what's coming in and what's going out. This way you can isolate where you're spending your money and really see what you need to work on. So yeah, living paycheck to paycheck is awful, and you need to get out of that as soon as you can. And I know it's going to be hard, but that's going to be the best thing for the future that you want to live. So those are the 4 things that keep you poor that require discipline to fix. So you have to start budgeting, you have to track your expenses, start living on less. You can't take on all of this debt because all of your money is just going to go to pay the interest on the debt. You have to master these 4 things before we can tackle the next 3. But before I talk about those, could you do me a favor and leave a like on this video, and please subscribe if you want more videos to help you navigate your finances, education, and career. Okay, so if we have the first 4 down, we are saving a little bit of excess money every month because we aren't living paycheck to paycheck anymore. So now the question is, what do we do with that money? And this is where we need a mindset change. The 5th thing that will keep you poor is saving all of your money. And I know this sounds counterintuitive, but there's only a couple places that you should be holding your cash. One of them would be an emergency fund, and then maybe if you have like a special vacation fund or something else for a big purchase, that's fine. And then another thing, which I call the buy the dip fund, which would be like cash you set aside for investing purposes for when the market drops or things of that nature. So other than those areas, you shouldn't have much cash on hand or keep a ton of cash in your bank account. It's really good for the banks, and the banks love it if you give them all your money. They're gonna loan out that money 10 times over and make a huge profit off of you, but it doesn't help you any, because if you're banking with like one of the big banks like Citibank or Wells Fargo or Chase or something, or even all of your local banks, you're gonna make no money. They pay you almost no interest rate, and they just make a big profit off of you. Also, when you store that much money in just cash in a bank account, you're just losing money to inflation. If inflation is growing at 3% and you're getting paid like 0.05% of your money is just losing purchasing power, because as things are getting more expensive, your money isn't growing at all, or the amount it's growing is eaten up by the amount inflation is growing. So like this year, when inflation is super high and your money is just sitting in your account, your purchasing power is going down. It's like you're losing, like if inflation is at 9%, you're losing 9% of that value when you hold that money in cash. So this is another reason that you shouldn't just be storing all of your money in a bank account. If you want to build wealth, you have to take some risks with your money. You need to be paying yourself every month, which leads us to the 6th thing that can keep you poor, which is not having a cash flow mindset. Because if you are keeping all of your money in your bank, you're not putting your money to good use, and you're not thinking about producing cash flows. So what I mean by this is putting money into something that will then return you more money later. So conventionally, this has been the stock market, real estate, and putting money into a business. We want that money to start working for us, so that way we don't have to trade our time for our money. Because right now, that's probably what we're doing. If we're a salaried or hourly worker, we're providing value to our company, and then they're gonna pay us an agreed upon amount. We wanna take that extra money that we receive and put it into something that is gonna produce money, whether it's the stock market, whether it's a business, or whether it's real estate. And in some ways, I want this YouTube channel to do that for me. And while it might not completely be passive because I'll still have to be making videos, when I become monetized and when I have enough content out there, I will get a recurring revenue stream from ads or from affiliate marketing so that I can trade less of my time for more money. And that's kind of the idea here. And then as the money produces cash flow, you can just keep on reinvesting it so it just builds faster and compounds over time. This way, we don't have to be working when we're 60 or 70 years old. And if we're gonna live a long life, we need to be thinking about this early so we can get that money working for us from a young age so it can compound over our entire life. So the seventh thing that can keep you poor is wasting your time trying to save money. So this is actually a big one for me that I'm pretty guilty of because I'll spend a lot of time like comparing deals if I'm gonna buy something or different financial products. So like if a bank account has a better interest rate or like comparing brokerages for what I want to use, like I can waste a lot of time in the research of saving money when that time could be better spent trying to make money, increase my cash flows, or things like that. So like do-it-yourself things or like finding coupons or different ways where you can save money. If it's taking you a ton of time, you're not really saving any money, you're just wasting your time. So be mindful of what you're actually spending your time on. Even if you say you're saving money, you really might be wasting time, which if that time was spent towards increasing your income, increasing cash flows, then you're really wasting your money and you're staying broke because of all the time you're wasting. I really think people have it all backwards. Society tells us to go to debt for school and then get a job, use more debt to buy fancy things, and then save a little bit money in the bank, invest a little bit in your 401k, and then live off that in Social Security. I think this is a terrible idea. Depending on Social Security might leave you broke when you're 70 years old. And I disagree with a lot of what Dave Ramsey thinks, but something that I do like that he says and that he quotes all the time is that you should live like no one else so one day you can live like no one else. I think this is so true because if you want to build wealth, you can't live like everyone else. Everyone else is taking on tons of debt for their student loans, for their cars. They can't pay off their credit cards. They're not tracking their expenses. They're not thinking about how to produce cash flows. So first, build that discipline to reduce your expenses, to learn how to budget, and then change your mindset on how to produce money. And don't just put all your money in the bank. Have that money work for you. That way you can stop trading your time for money. Thank you guys so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.